All right, man. Well,
Trying to take over the world.
yep. Solid, man. All right.
Hey.
Another day.
All right, Monday.
All right. Well, first thing we do every time, right? I mean, this one gets long.
So we're not just giving away like one thing today or a few things today. It's all month.
I mean, shoot, I can't believe how much.
2
it
weeks
was.
into it.
All right. So if any of you found one of these in your catalog, and when you place your order, free. Put your stuff in your wish list and your preferred reefer, free. Well,
Free.
I mean,
Up
at
to
least-
500, but
yeah, giving you the points, and you can go buy the stuff up to $500.
you know, I found a wish list the other day when I was picking some of these that they had put something in their wish list back in 2015 or 16 or something.
Boom.
And they just got it free now. It was still in there.
2015, man. Well,
Your dreams can still come true years later.
you're probably like, man, I don't even have a tank anymore. All right. Well, anyway, right on, man. All right. So what we're gonna do is we'll read them off. There's a little bit. I'm gonna try going super fast because there's so much. And I know they just sent an email. It said that we gave away $12,000 and change.
I think that was before I added today's winners.
All right,
today.
man. So total, like so far, boom, is $13,793 worth of orders that we've given back so far this month, man. Month's barely even started.
That's 4 orders a day that I go back there at a random time and pick random orders and then just put the golden ticket in. And then there's a wish list winner every day too. So,
Oh, you know what I noticed here?
what?
I'm not going to give it away yet, but there's a trend going.
It's
I'm gonna
it's
share
picking
the
up.
trend.
It's
Yes.
picking up.
All right, so Kelly Van Beek from San Antonio, Texas, $215. Justin Corley from Aldo, Texas, $45. Randy Emery, $12.45. Joshua Shirley, $92.28 from Lancaster. Alfonso Fior, $139. Chad Willis, $24. John Fleck, $32. Mike Evans, $141. Jason Betskick, $500. Was that the guy that won the Trident?
Trident?
Trident, maybe, man.
It might be.
That was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool,
The
'cause-
release day, you get it for like almost for free.
Well, Adam, we had that one set aside because it had a small little blemish on the box, but then they decided, no, run that because we need to get him out the door. And so I went back there, and sure enough, that was one just standing there. I grabbed
Boom.
it.
There it is. All right, Patrick Hanlon, $188. Craig Miller, $106. David Hughes, $48. Joseph Morgan, $500.
Boom. Capped
Chris
it out.
Gordon, $500.
Capped it out. These are orders, too.
Yeah, these are orders, man. Like you spent $500. No, you didn't. Now you get to go buy something new. All right, Kyle Brown, $66. Stefan Pernvey, $362. Richard Musser, $33. Paul Rock, $60. Michael Lindau, $500. Johnny Carr, $302. Ben Digman, $174. Matthew Coleman, $150. Julio Ortez, $206. Andrew Harrison, $8. James Chiquis, $99. Tyler Carruthers, $500.
Maxed
out. Michael Perry, $88. Alex Rhodes, $34. Boom, those are all orders. So everybody placed those orders, got the points back to them. Bravo, man, super awesome.
Good luck.
They're preferred reefers. You want to be a preferred reefer? There's like 8 million links on the site right now, but most like probably in the header is the easiest one to find, footer, wherever. Wish list is, all right, this one has changed, man. You guys caught on.
This is the last week of wish list. So the first week of wish list, the numbers were pretty low. I think
You know,
like 30, 60, maybe a couple $100 here and there. And then we talked about all of the winners from the first week, and now here we are in the second week,
Boom.
and the tide's changed.
Yeah, except for now, Lan Xu is $500 to Brooklyn. Eric Doodley, $500. William Cameron, $500. I wonder what these are all in their carts, man.
There was a couple Tridents, some Apex gear, some Radion, some Vortex, all the stuff that you just hope and dream for.
I know I was geeking out on this, so I went and looked at like the wish list stuff last week. And sure enough, man, you can see like people are actually like, oh yeah, I want that, I want that, I want that, I
Yeah.
want that.
Yeah.
And it's not like just going and throwing like an Apex in your account, man. Like, no, these are the things I
Stuff
actually
you
want.
really want.
So that's pretty cool. Then we got Matthew Oric for $209. Bradley Pufu, $500. Kim Dung, $149. And Pedro Tena, $319.
Sounds awesome.
Boom. For a total, I mean, added with the one from last week.
Yeah.
$13,793.98.
Which is almost $1,000 a day.
Boom.
Just
Ow.
just under $1,000 a day.
Oh, man, this is gonna be the most unprofitable
Hurts
month
you
of
more
all
than it
time.
hurts me.
Yeah, it probably does. I bet you this one will be negative profit month. I'll go down in history Ryan, that was the dumbest thing you ever did. So I don't know. Bravo, man. I'm hoping that number will probably more than double by the end. So
With as
by
many
the
500s? Yeah.
man, 500 going up. I mean, if you got $150 in your wish list,
You're
and we
doing
call
it
you,
wrong.
you're gonna say, "Why don't I get $500?" And so I bet you that thing's gonna end at 30 grand this end of this month.
That's pretty good because
35 grand.
that's more than our 20K giveaway dream tank.
Dude, it is.
It is.
Oh my God! Don't say that to Bob, man. I'm gonna be so much trouble.
Sorry, Bob.
All right, awesome, man. So those of you who don't know, it's Mr. Chili's anniversary. It's been 15 years. He's been with us from MJ Mods, Reef Chili, two-part solution, all the variants of bulk resupply, and just thought we'd celebrate his existence on the planet.
Yeah.
By giving away 10x rewards. So all the BRS products out there, you get 10% back to buy your own stuff, and we're giving away stuff every day. So every single day, 4 of those cards, wherever those cards went, 4 of those cards go in your catalog. You open up your catalog in your order. If you see that thing, man, you won. And,
Look inside the catalog. That's
yeah.
the key here because these fit almost perfectly inside the catalog. So if you just throw your catalog away, you might not get your little card in there.
Boom. That
so
would be pretty tragic.
check the catalog.
Yeah, check the catalog. The catalog's in there. And there you go, man. So be part of the fun.
Preferred Reefer. It's easy to sign up. It's all over the website.
Oh,
Click here.
Somebody said, I can't afford it.
It's free. It's free.
Yeah, it's free. So if you go and create an account and hit the button, you now get rewards. It's 5x normally. It's 10x now. We give away stuff every week usually. Today we're giving it now 4x every day.
Yeah.
Giving away carts. Not carts. No more carts.
Wish
Carts
list.
are done.
We're not doing carts anymore.
Yeah, we're giving away wish lists, and we're giving away. That's a good point. For all of these, you used to put stuff in your cart and wait for it.
Which we
no
did.
more.
We did on Mondays. We used to pull carts as you were shopping for them. So now you don't have to have all that stuff in there when you just need some GFO. So unless you had GFO in it.
Yeah, so no more cart because that's just a big pain in the butt to pull all that stuff out of your cart, put it in your wish list, much easier.
Yeah.
All right, so did you see
Agreed.
my post on Facebook
I did.
yesterday?
Yeah, so I sat down. I just saw it this morning. So I sat down with Drew, and we were kind of hashing out what Black Friday looks like for us in the videos. And last year we did nothing but we'd come in here, we'd do live streams for like an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, and just kind of BS about stuff, answer questions, look at the products on Black Friday. And then you came up with the big bright idea of 24 hours of reefing.
No, it's still stuck in here.
And I'm Mystery Science Theater. I used to watch a lot of that. So yeah, I know exactly where you're going with it, and I'm down.
So we're
100%.
thinking, man, we're gonna stitch together all of the 52 weeks of reefing.
Yeah.
Into one episode. We'll play it like our theater in here somewhere or whatever. Put up a couch or whatever. Mystery Science Theater
Camera
and
behind us.
24 hours of reefing straight, man. Randy and I,
Commenting.
heckling me.
Yeah.
Just
Answering questions that flow in.
I mean, once in a while I say that guy was smart, sometimes dumb, So
we don't do
learned
that
stuff
anymore.
since 2015 or whatever it was.
So that's just 52 weeks straight through the 1 through 52. You also have the FAQs, you have the updates. Depends on what fills up 24 hours, I guess. If you're playing nonstop. Those were like 30, 45-minute episodes.
I think I don't know if it's certainly not exactly 24 hours, but right around there. It's 24 hours of reefing, Red Bulls, we'll keep it going. I don't know if I can really do that.
We might have to bring in some stand-ins during the wee hours of the morning.
How would you just get like little puppets? It is kind of silhouette. Nobody knows. All right. Well, anyway.
Hey, if you want to, you want to see 24 hours of reefing? There's a post on the SBRS TV Facebook group, but go in there and check it out.
That was my most popular post of all time. I got 500 likes in the first 3 minutes. It was pretty.
Never been done.
No.
We can do it.
Awesome. So, what do we got to answer today?
We got a few things to answer. I pulled a couple things that were somewhat interesting. We'll save the plants one last. AWC. We'll start from the left to work our way up.
All right.
Bob was just, checking out calcium reactors and those who run it, and asked if we're still pulling daily auto water changes, and if so, what percentages, and do you feel there's any benefits to doing? So a couple of questions. Is there benefits to doing smaller changes as opposed to a larger monthly change? And are you using a calcium reactor and still doing auto water changes?
So I'm trying to follow the exact question as to why, if you're doing a calcium reactor, why would that matter with water changes?
Well, I mean, I wonder if the assumption is that there is an amount of trace elements and the bicarbonates and carbonates that keep up your tank, where with the Triton it was understood that it's trace elements and it's taking care of, you know, your alkalinity and calcium. I don't really need to do water changes anymore. Maybe the same as with a calcium reactor, because they're under the inception that it has
I don't
trace
think
elements.
that the water changes replace them all like that. Probably enough in most cases, but or no, I mean the calcium reactors. But like, there's so many reasons to do a water change at this point. You know, like you're getting rid of nutrients. You're getting rid of toxins that the corals create. You know, to defend their little areas. You are, any unintentional toxins that get in there. You balance of the chemistry, trace elements and whatnot, and maybe even like major or minor elements rather.
Yeah, because not everything probably depletes at the same rate, the same ratio. So you can probably adjust those up or down depending on which one by a water change.
So I don't think the calcium reactor really, there's no reason to not do water changes if you got a calcium reactor.
Especially if it's auto water change too. If it's
it's
auto, then there's really no reason not to do them at all. Like, why just use
the
the
auto
auto
water change is the one great unifier, man. That just make sure that almost every problem you'd have with chemistry won't exist. Most common ones anyway.
Yeah.
Just your auto water changing it out happens every day, all the time, and when you're doing a calcium reactor, it's basically like dosing diluted 2-part all day long, right?
Yeah.
It's just a really big, long dose of 2-part essentially that maybe has some other elements in there as well, but yeah, I don't know.
And from what we're finding from saltwater storage, mixing up a bin of 60 gallons or 40, you can get a 44-gallon brute trash can, which for a lot of people that'll last them several days or weeks for auto water change system, and not affect chemistry.
If it was only days, man, that'd be one big tank.
That'd be a big tank.
Yeah. All right, well, hey, man, interesting.
The second part of his question was, do you find you're getting more benefit from regular, continuous, smaller water changes, or like something larger, like a monthly, or maybe every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or stretched out?
For sure, stability pays off everywhere. There's a lot of corals that maybe probably wouldn't care one way or another. I find personally the zoanthids and the xenia and the softies and stuff don't really seem to be as finicky about perfect water chemistry, and wouldn't do 20% water change. They shrink up for a minute and pop back out. But when I'm talking about my sticks and the SPS corals, stability. So if you're not happy with the coloration and growth, find ways to get more stability, and it will come.
If you're doing a large one once a month, or maybe even a couple weeks, it's harder to get that stability, because now you're mixing up a larger volume of water, which means you have more parameters that you have to match, or you want to match before you do the water change. Temperature's got to be right, levels have got to be right. You're draining the tank down a certain level, so you might expose some of your more sensitive corals to air or what have you. Just less variables when you're doing a continuous change all the time, I guess.
Yeah, and some people say in tidal reefs corals get exposed to the ocean, but they might also be brown. We're looking to maintain the most brilliant color possible, and stability is definitely what provides that. So I would personally, if you do a large water change once a month, technically you are, maybe not even technically, you are being more efficient with your salt mix, right?
Yeah.
I will get more dollar value out of my salt mix because I'm taking out 30 gallons and replacing 30 gallons.
Right.
If I do a gallon a day every day, essentially I'm taking out old water, but also a little bit of the water I took out yesterday or put in yesterday, and so on, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of inefficient, but man, I mean, it depends on how efficient you want to be, but the net of the savings is probably $3 a month, so I would do what produces the best health for the animals that you care for, not necessarily try to save $3.
Makes sense.
That'd be my own take on it anyway.
$3.
Yeah, I mean, for most people, it really is probably in the neighborhood. Like,
Yeah.
So when you're talking efficiency, make sure you're talking about, in an area that matters, because if you are more efficient, but like the animals you care for are less happy, I'm not sure that was a good investment.
Oh, true. Oh.
All right, there's a couple questions over here. So I got a 75-gallon tank. I'm adding plants. Should I use CO2? If what rate should I?
So, I'm adding plants. So we do have a question that I pulled, and they probably read they read the title here. It could be freshwater. If you're adding
Jerry,
plants,
I think you came to the reefing site to ask a freshwater question. I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, well, there is Cato. That's plants.
They're usually trying to suck the CO2 out of a saltwater tank.
Should you use CO2? Yeah.
So for those who don't know, if you have a planted tank, almost everybody will add CO2 back to the tank because you need to grow, or you need CO2 to grow the plants. And the freshwater tanks don't have a ton of surface tension, and they consume all the CO2 pretty fast. So they actually dose it to the tank. In a saltwater tank,
trying to get rid of CO2.
Super important to get rid of CO2 because the acidity of the water directly slows down calcification of the tank and lowers the pH. So, I don't know, Jerry, I would not, if you have a reef tank, I don't care if you're putting Catomorpha or any other plant in there, I would never dose CO2 to the tank.
Nope.
I can't think of a single scenario.
No. To some degree, there's CO2 going in from a calcium reactor, but it's not directly dosing CO2.
But you prefer it wasn't.
Ah, exactly.
Yeah. So I can't think of a single beneficial reason as to dose CO2 that is long term. So there you go.
Cool.
How do you relate to that, man? How do you lower pH? I bought more corals, so just shoot that one over there. Can you read that one for me?
How do you lower pH? I bought more corals just so I could up my calc and raise pH. I rooted it on... he started it on as slowly, and it rose from 7.8 to 8.3, then changed as it kept going. About 8.5 now, but as high as 8.7.
So I've seen that with Kalkwasser too. So if you have a scenario where there's not a lot of CO2 in the surrounding room, like you don't have a lot of pets, or like your house is old and leaky.
Well ventilated, yeah.
New houses, I say that because new houses are just so sealed up. They like either have an air exchanger to solve that problem, or like all the carbon dioxide just gets trapped in there. In an older house, like I live down the street over here, and in this tiny house that like just leaked air out of every hole in the whole place.
Yeah.
CO2, not a problem, man, ever. So, but yeah, in a newer house, it's different. So lowering the pH though, in that case, you just stop dosing so much.
You're gonna have to get rid of the calc, yeah.
So or I make it diluted. So you're probably mixing it up to max saturation.
2 teaspoons, yeah.
So maybe I'd use 1 teaspoon per gallon of water, or it just may not be the ideal solution in your tank. So in general, like for those who don't know, and we get this question all the time, about pH. Like people ask all kinds of weird stuff, like if I get more oxygen in there, oxygen has nothing to do with pH at all. The pH in your tank, provided the alkalinity is like almost exclusively related to one thing: the amount of carbon dioxide that's in the room from pets and people breathing, and how much of it ends up in the tank just through gas exchange in your skimmer and surface. That CO2 gets in the water, turns into carbonic acid, and lowers the pH of the tank. So almost exclusively. And so like if you see people who have reef tanks and stuff at restaurants, it's super, super hard to maintain the pH in those environments.
That makes sense.
I used to have a friend who took care of one, and they had like parties there on the weekends. And the weekends, the pH would just plummet, man. Because so it was like a dance party at this place. And so like it was really, really, really hard to take care of that tank in that environment. So here, like happens here too. So there's 100 people working here, and in this environment, the pH goes down on the weekdays.
Yeah,
weekends pH goes up like
Solid.
3 points, 0.3 of a point, because there's nobody here breathing.
That's
so
true.
So high pH is almost never a problem. If you're not dosing this kind of stuff, but your pH is too high, it's one of a couple of reasons. One, is because your test kit's garbage.
There's that.
Or you've been testing wrong, or your probe's wrong, or whatever. Because being consistently over, 8.3 or even 8.5 or whatnot is pretty rare as a natural occurrence. And so if you're like at 8.7, it's because you're dosing too much of something, and you should scale it back.
Or the test kit.
Or like this one's an oddball one. Not oddball. Actually, it's pretty. Used to be more common than it is today. Or you're dosing something called pH Buffer Up Deluxe, right?
Oh,
and so somebody told you should, dose a whole bunch of pH buffer to get your pH up. And to be honest, man, if you're dosing any chemical to the tank other than just maintaining alkalinity for proper reason or proper alkalinity in your tank, if they dose anything in addition to that, you're probably doing it wrong in almost every case. Because even Kalkwasser or two-part or whatever, the goal of the Kalkwasser is actually to maintain calcium and alkalinity. The elevated pH is just a pleasant byproduct of that.
If that's what you need, yeah.
I wouldn't dose more to raise the pH.
No.
I'd only dose the amount of calcium alkalinity that I need. So if you're using pH Buffer Deluxe, a lot of times what that has in it is borate salts in it, which artificially keep the pH. I shouldn't say artificially. It actually does keep the pH really high.
Oh.
But it's a type of alkalinity that your tank doesn't consume.
Yeah.
Right? And so you keep adding this stuff into the tank, and
Showing
it's
good
like
pH.
tricking yourself that you have a whole bunch of carbonate alkalinity in the tank, and you don't because you got a bunch of borate in there. The pH is super high, and worse yet, I'm adding the pH Buffer Deluxe to the tank over and over and over again, trying to get this like mythical 8.3, and I'm not watching alkalinity for some reason, and the alkalinity is shooting through the roof. Bad news.
Yeah.
I just can't think of a single reason to use that other than a fish-only tank. And even in there, I don't know if I really need to maintain 8.3 in that environment.
No.
But in a fish-only tank, I don't really need carbonate alkalinity. The borate alkalinity is probably just fine and easier to maintain, maybe. So, I don't run a lot of fish-only tanks, but that might be one instance. But in a reef tank, never.
Yeah.
Never.
So, my question is if he's testing alkalinity on here, because it's just that he got more corals so that he could increase the calc and raise pH. So definitely worth like checking alkalinity.
Any reason to get more coral is a good one.
Well, that's true too. So,
all right. Okay. How do you lower pH? Oh, that was this.
Yeah, we just did that
one. Can I add natural sand from the ocean to my aquarium?
I think you did a FAQ video on this for the 52 weeks or something like that, or we had talked about it. You talked about it one time in a video, because I remember listening in, and the stuff, the organics and the maybe contaminants or whatever's out there in the ocean, especially on the edge of most populated, where if there's an edge of an ocean, there's probably population there, in which case there's probably some sort of contaminants or runoff from streets or all kinds of stuff that could be in there. And maybe not wise. Maybe you could dry it out and then rinse it and cure it, maybe.
This is what I'd say, man, is if you're looking at a beach, and at that beach you can see a bunch of parked cars, whatever comes out the cars probably in the beach. If you can see in there suntan lotion bottles
in any
spilling
direction.
around. Yeah, like if you can see garbage and pollution around, man, there's garbage and pollution in the sand. Right?
True.
It's also in the tidal areas of the sand. But so let's just say you found a nice place that's outside of that.
Right.
Still, you collect some sand. By the way, I don't know if that's legal or not. Probably depends on the state. But you go out there and pull out a bunch of sand. It can still have all kinds of muck and organics in it, so you're going to want to filter it out in some manner.
Yeah.
And the benefit is it probably has like a whole bunch of copepods and little life and stuff in it.
Which could also be a dangerous thing on the reef pest side.
Yep. So I'll share that. So my first tank I ever had was from Tampa Bay saltwater rock. Super cool stuff. You get it, it's filled with all kinds of life, man. Mostly filter feeders that ultimately don't make it, but it gives it a year, 18 months for you to have this really awesome tank. It's like Insta tank, and then you can kind of edge your way into adding your own corals and stuff as different things happen in the tank. So, but in there, man, like I saw some kind of weird underwater centipede in there. So it comes with sand, by the way. Ship water, the rock ships with water in it, airport to airport from Tampa Bay. And then, like, it comes with a bag of sand that they took out of the ocean, you know. I'll tell you, the tank cycles, like, so fast, man.
That's
and,
cool.
like, part of a reason why I think a lot of people will just be instantly successful and they don't have to deal with, I mean, there's just some amount of cycle, but, like, I'm not talking about the ammonia cycle. I'm talking about, like, avoiding all kinds of weird, you know, cyano and diatoms and all that stuff.
Ugly
like,
brown fish.
you know, like the tank, man, is just biologically stable really fast in that. But, man, I got those, I can't think of the isopods, man, that attach to the fish's gills from that.
Oh, yeah.
I got the little fluke things and some things attached to their tails. I got...
You got buttfish too, didn't you?
No, that wasn't me. That was somebody else who got a buttfish. Yeah. But there's lots of cucumbers. Cucumbers like to go and crawl into skimmers and chew themselves up for whatever reason. There's 3 of them that went for the same thing of ever laying boundaries of trying to prevent them. They didn't care.
They want to be in the skimmer.
And it was on the top of the tank too. Like they crawled up the wall for it. It was like it was a siren song.
That's
great.
great.
I don't know, man. It was really crazy. But yeah, so you dig the stuff out of the ocean, man. The good stuff comes, bad stuff comes. You know, kind of a gamble. If you're just trying to save money. By taking it out of the ocean, and it's legal wherever you're at. What I would do is just take a big bucket and you coil a hose around in the bottom of it, and then fill all the sand in, turn the hose on, and it just kind of tumbles the sand, and the garbage flows out of the top, right? Yeah. And so let it run for an hour or 2 or whatever, and you'll probably have, you know, essentially tumble cleaned it, and then you save a bunch of money. But in terms of like the biology of it, at that point it's probably dead.
Yeah,
you know, from fresh
chlorine.
water,
Yeah, well, there's probably chlorine, and stuff in there to kill everything. But I don't know if it was me, I'd probably rinse it like that and then lay it out on something and dry it, and then rinse it again.
You know, another thing to think about in this case too, you know, is the size of the sand.
Oh, a lot of the beaches are really fine grained too, aren't they?
Yeah, so like people, the number 2 selling sand, or number 1 historically was this Fiji pink stuff, which is like, you know, a little bit bigger. And all it is just sand that they sprinkled some pink quartz bits into it.
Makes it look a
it
little
didn't
pink.
naturally come from the beach that way. But like actually the special grade is the most popular here.
Yeah.
There's one size up from that, because after that it starts to get really coarse and like
It's
looks
almost like
gravel.
Calcium reactor media almost.
Yeah, it gets too big. But at the special grade, it's like just big enough that it doesn't move around as much and stays put and still looks okay. You get finer than that, and then like in any flow tank that has, you know, kind of today's standard of flow, stuff blows all over the place. So whatever beach you're at, I'd make sure that like it's in a particle size that isn't going to drive you nuts later. You know.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes and no. You know, understand what you're getting into and why you're doing it, and it can save you a bunch of money though, because you know what's a bag of sand cost these days?
Oh, like
You know, it's about $1 a pound, isn't it?
Yeah.
So $100, man. You get $100 of sand, or 100 pounds of sand in the bottom of your 100-gallon tank, can save you $100. So you know, bravo. All right, all right.
Let's
hit another question.
Yeah, let's hit another question.
Right.
Dry. Let's talk about dry skimming real quick.
Dry skimming. All right.
So, Brad was wondering. He said he's been told to dry skim, but he's not entirely sure what it is and how to do it.
All right.
And I guess we should add in there why would you want to dry skim too? But basically, dry skim to me means that there's, I don't know. So here, let me start with wet skim to me. Wet skim to me means there's this post on AskBRS TV a while ago. It was a poll, and it was rate your Skimmate cup color, and there was like coffee brown. There was like coffee. There was all these different types of thickness and brown and colors and stuff like that, light tea or something like that. So wet skim to me means your skimmer cup is probably filling up every few days to maybe a week. It's a brown liquid that you can sort of see through, so it's a lighter brown liquid, and mostly in the cup is like somewhat liquid, not a whole lot of thick pasty type skimmate. And then dry skim is probably opposite of that, to where the neck of the skimmer is thick with, like, you could scrape it out in your hand and slop it in the sink or what have you. There's probably less liquid in the cup, but the liquid that is in the cup is really dark, really thick, and dry. Oh.
All right. So for me, this is all like up to anybody. There's no wrong answer. For wet skim means just there's a consistent amount of foam coming over the edge, it's going pretty consistently. I've seen in environments where it's just kind of almost constantly flowing, right? In that case, it's mostly water. There's some organics in there, but there's a lot of water, and you're essentially removing salt water with that, and so you got to make sure you stay on top of your ATO and stuff. I remove a gallon of salt water every day in a big cup, and then I got to replace it.
Yeah,
can't replace it with fresh water.
Yeah, exactly. Your salinity will start to go down.
And then alternative to that is dry, which is like this kind of foam that just kind of like puffs up, pops, puffs up, pops, puffs up, and then a little bit flows over the edge of your cup, right? And I've seen in both cases that you get like a whole bunch of stuff inside of there. The answer to that question, though, of which one's best, is whichever one's removing the most fish turds from your tank, right? And so
it's like flushing the toilet. Remove
more water doesn't help anything, but it might remove a little bit more, if there's more action going on. And the big thing of trying to. I'd just say this, man. Actually, I wouldn't chase wet, dry. I chase consistent. Yeah. So set it up to wherever it's consistently removing some, because outside of that, if I try to go too dry, it will work for a little while and then it won't work. If I go too wet, it's overflowing all over the place. Yeah. So finding somewhere in the middle. And I'll personally say that when I'm cleaning my skimmer cup, that that muck that's inside, is more satisfying than the liquid. Yeah. Because if I dried that liquid out, there'd probably be only like this much actual organics on the bottom of it. That muck, man, you dry it out, and there's a lot, right? And so I don't mind if the net collects a whole bunch of that muck, and as long as you remove it and get it out of the tank, because I might look at that muck and scoop it all out of there, and to me it might actually look like, oh yeah, that looks about the 6 things of food I put in last week. And if it does, it's probably close to that. Whereas the tea-colored water, I don't know.
I've heard people use wet skimming at the tail end of maybe some medications that they've done to the tank, or if something is in the tank contaminant, you can do a series of water changes and have the skimmer work for you by wet skimming or more wet skimming, where it's just a lot of liquid and brown, so it can help pull out some of that type of stuff too. So. There might be times when I would choose to go a little wetter than others, but
we've hooked it up to a 5-gallon bucket and let it run. If we thought there was something in there, and just let it run
with a hose out there.
With a hose coming out, get it pretty high. You can take, somebody's doing water changes that way actually.
Oh yeah.
So that's the way they're doing their water changes, making the skim go super wet, and then if it does that, essentially you're doing a concentrated water change. I'm doing a water change that is removing the high organic laden water change. I don't know, I think there's some wisdom in there if you've got patience for it.
It's got to take a while.
Personally, I'd rather just do twice the water change.
Don't.
I don't know, but there's something to be said for efficiency.
Yeah.
All right, next one.
Let's see. Mixing salt water. This was a quick one. I was just kind of running through, and it was just posted as I was pulling them. But Janelle was wondering, she said, filling up the brand new tank today, is it better to mix the salt water in the buckets first, or just add salt to the tank once it's full? I think this is the one, and my answer here is the one time that you ever could just mix the salt water in the tank. I've done it before.
Yeah.
Just fill up a brand new tank. I think I haven't done it with rock in the tank. I'll do the water and then get the water full and get the sump full and then start adding my rock in. Not sure how much of the granules stay in the surfaces of the rock, and eventually it's going to sit in water for the rest of its life now. It'll dissolve out, so it's probably not a big deal. But I've mixed it just in empty tanks.
I would absolutely do it in the tank. And the reason being for that is that if you got a 150-gallon tank and you got a 30-gallon drum to do your water change in it,
take you forever.
I have to mix this up 5 times to fill the damn thing up. So I'm going to put RO water, let the RO water fill up until it's full. Hopefully with a flow valve or something. and then mix it right in there. And
Yeah.
I personally not super worried about like some of it gets in the rock. That's a million miles from my concern.
Yeah.
It'll dissolve.
Not a big deal.
And to be honest, what we're learning about mixing up your salt water and stuff is really the best practice is probably to do it in heated water with flow for more than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Which is the tank's perfect for that.
The tank is
As
heated.
long as something's
There's
in it.
flow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just start mixing it, and then it's going to stay mixed too.
It's probably going to do better in the tank than it would in your bin in that environment.
Yeah.
Provided you don't have livestock of any kind in there.
Then that's the only one. That's the only time that I would do it.
Oh, there we go. Ryan Hertman. Bergia is on its way. Just sent out the door.
Oh, you ordered a Bergia?
A Bergia.
Our
Bergia. Hey, can you bring that one up, man?
Ryan Heathman.
Yeah.
Where'd you order from?
Uh-oh.
Salty Underground?
Salty
Critter?
Underground. I think it's one of those two. Forgive me, Ryan.
Sorry, Ryan.
It's either Salty Underground or Salty Critter.
Throw your link up there in the comments.
Throw in the comment. We'll put it up. And so, by the way, so we were talking about Aiptasia and stuff in this tank. Got a mountain of Aiptasia. Number one piece of advice: don't try to kill it. All you can do is spread it.
Yes.
So what's the number one advice?
Don't kill it.
All you'll do is spread it. So what we're going to do is put a bunch of Bergie in there, and they'll eat them all up. And we'll share the journey. So I got a little update video that we're going to plan here in a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll show you exactly, when you look how close, you probably can't see it right now, but when you look how close, you can see exactly how many Aiptasia are in there because we got dumb and tried to kill them. And just spread them around.
Pretty bad.
And then we will go ahead and wipe them out with some Bergia. And so the guys over at Salty Something is going to help us out.
Yeah.
And you'll hopefully watch the progress and say, oh man, Ryan,
works?
take my money.
Yeah.
Take my money. Yeah, it's all that. And so for what he said is the little guys will eat more than the big guys. Big guys breed.
Yeah.
Little guys hold on tighter on super high flow tanks.
High flow tank though too. So yeah, they hold on. You're gonna have little guys floating around. There it is, Salty Underground.
Yeah. There it is.
Thanks, Ryan.
It's Salty Underground, man. Don't kill me, Ryan. I'm so sorry. If you send me hate mail in my email, I'll understand. But only one, please. No, big thank you to Ryan. I reached out to him, and he's like, oh, yeah, man, I watch those videos all the time, dude.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah,
And so I'm like,
that's cool.
That's my greatest, my favorite phone call of the
We
day.
need the help. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, and just share the news. Because a lot of people heard Bergia. For those who don't know, Bergias are little nudibranchs that like to eat Aiptasia. And that's the only thing they'll eat in the tank.
It's perfect.
And they'll just crawl around and eat. They'll breed and slowly wipe them out. They may not get every last one. And, you might have to spend, each one of these things like $20 or something like that. And you might have to spend a couple $100 in them to get enough to really do it in a timely manner. Mm-hmm. But think about how much you spend on every coral. If every coral that they're stinging is $60, doesn't take long before $200 in Bergia start to make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Devin wants us to make sure that we don't have any wrasses out there.
Yeah. So we are trying super hard to get the wrasse out of here.
True story.
And then I don't know. I'm just gonna say that I feel really fortunate that the eel ate them.
Oh yeah. Okay. So let me tell this. I'll tell this. So we've had the 6 line in here. We've been trying to catch him. I think upwards of 3 weeks now. They've built this screen net top corral that was on PVC pipe to try to get him to go through. Had the box in here with the trap and all kinds of stuff.
The red light was
turn
cool.
the red light. That was really cool. Like Jeremy from Brightwell, he turned you onto that one.
Mm-hmm.
Turn the lights off around the tank. Turn your tanks to red light if you have the LEDs, or use you can even use a red light flashlight, I guess, on your head. And they can't see red light, so they can't see the net coming in. But he was really smart, the 6 line. For anybody who's tried to catch a 6 line, you guys already know. This is one of the toughest things to do in reefing, especially when it comes to catching fish. And the red light would come on, and he wouldn't dart away, but he knew exactly where to end up going inside the corals. So, was it a couple days ago? Josh had trimmed off some corals here that was fell victim to some Bariopsis and things, and actually fell victim to the Aiptasia because it got stung. So he removed that small little colony, and it opened up this cave inside the rock, and that was the cave that was just underneath the eel. And we think that the half a body of a 6 line wrasse that we found was he got chomped. Yeah.
So maybe it sounds terrible. We're happy that the eel ate him, but I'm gonna own it. And you know what? It's going to help us save a lot of other animals that are in the tank. And it's part of nature.
Yeah,
you know, the other day, you know, for those of you who watch my Instagram, I got baby foxes that live in my backyard. And my wife is trying to figure out why all the ducks that live in the backyard, why there's no duck babies.
There's a reason.
The foxes are eating all the eggs, man. And so, you know what? I mean, it's just part of nature. Dude, you know, without one thing, you don't have the other. So, you know, every time I put cubes of fish food in there, there's some shrimp or animal that died to feed the fish. So be it.
Yeah.
But they're out. So now, you don't want to have, thank you, Devin, for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And
no wrasses.
The wrasses will eat it. In fact, that specific wrasse was eating nudibranchs.
The whole reason he was put in the tank was to get rid of the money-eating nudibranchs that we had in there.
Yeah, and you know what? Then we put him in there, he killed something else too. So maybe that's why I don't like him so much.
Yeah.
Is my favorite fish in the universe, a little four-wheel signal gobies. You know, he's having like a lot of success with them. And he went in there and just harassed him to death immediately. The first thing he did. You know, so saved the corals from the nudibranchs, but killed the fish.
Yeah. But now we're gonna try it out.
Eel's happy though.
He was happy when we put 250 shrimp in there, peppermint shrimp.
Yeah, peppermint shrimp. Sometimes, actually, I've seen instances where the peppermint shrimp wiped out the Aiptasia, and then you see other instances where you put 200 in and nobody cared.
And then
it's like the last thing they wanted to eat was that. I don't know. So who knows?
Such was the case.
All right. So,
we got one last question here.
And then we'll
answer some other ones. This is one we pulled, which was pretty interesting, and the reason for the plant here. But Brent had put in here, and let me get real close to read it. He said he's been thinking about running a fresh air line to his outside of his house to increase pH, but the complexity for his house was a little tough. So his wife offered up an idea of placing some Boston ferns next to the tank to absorb CO2, and he thought that she was completely nuts, but then he shows a graph here of his pH, and pretty much he says he saw a pretty significant type of increase there in a 100 square foot area. And has anyone else tried this, and will we do it in a BRS TV Investigates?
I think that sounds like a great idea, man.
That's pretty cool.
It's based on sound science that the plants in the room are growing and uptaking CO2 in the room. So, I mean, you have to figure out, you know, some kind of balance of,
room size, CO2 concentration.
Yeah,
there's a few.
And just like the Refugium, if I put like a crappy little light on it, will barely grow and barely consume CO2. If I put a super high powered light on it, it will grow rapidly and consume a lot of CO2. So if you put the plants in like windows and whatnot where it gets direct sunlight, they'll probably grow faster, have a higher rate of photosynthesis, consume more CO2. If I got a plant in the corner that gets almost no light, just barely hanging on, probably not going to be a great solution. And so it takes the plants next to the tank, though, probably get tons of light from these guys spilling over. And so maybe that's why.
Somebody had made mention, too, that you'd have to do the research on it and find out, too, but if more respiration happens at night when it's not trying to produce chlorophyll and photosynthesize, that it might respirate more. The plant might respirate more at night.
All right, well, but during the day, it's providing the photosynthesis is providing energy and sugar.
For sure.
Right, so it may actually do it at night. I don't know, but
it's worth trying.
If it's doing it at night, it's because it was able to collect that energy and produce the simple sugar during the day to be able to do that. So in either case, the light's going to matter.
That's cool. All right.
Let's answer a couple of these questions here. What does Jake Speed say? I thought you said last week that Terrence from Neptune was going to be on today. No, I think he's coming here this weekend.
He'll be here Thursday night.
Okay, so I don't know exactly.
So he'll be here Friday.
I might not be here on Friday. I know I won't be. I'm going to be at my sister-in-law's wedding. So I don't know. Maybe you guys will. Maybe he'll be here on Monday.
Staying through the weekend? Maybe he's staying through the weekend.
I think he is. I think he'll be here on Monday, and we'll probably have him here live with you guys.
If he's here Monday, he's got to come on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Prior to that, maybe you have to entertain him. I don't know.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Good luck. I don't know. But I got a wedding, so we're going all the way up to Duluth. And
all the way.
Yep. Well, it's like 2 hours, man.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, it's cold up there.
It's terrible. It's a big difference.
Snowed. It's May. For anybody who doesn't know Minnesota weather, it's May. It's now becoming mid-May, and just last week it snowed 10.5 inches in Duluth in May.
It's crazy, man. It's attached to the big lakes, or it's on the big lakes, so like Great Lakes, rather.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And if doing WWC hybrid method, when would you start the Refugium?
Oh, that was a good question. I think we kind of found this out. We found some information to it. We learned more about it when we started the ULM tanks, and we kicked off a Refugium, or tried to kick off a Refugium right off the bat, and they just wouldn't take. And this was like during the cycling process and everything. And I think for me, I would start a Refugium when I actually have like waste producers and I'm feeding the tank regularly. So fish, after adding fish and feeding them normally.
Yeah, so it's interesting because during our experiments we had those side-by-side tanks, and the Ketomorpha took off right away. In the ULMs, it didn't, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so I don't know if there's enough information out there on this one, and it might have been that like the H380s were just too close to the
that very well could be.
in that environment underneath the sump. They were just too close, too powerful. It could have been a variety of things, but I don't know. I mean, if I were going to do, well, first off, it's a little different because you're talking hybrid method here. And so in the hybrid method, what we really kind of said is this is optional.
If you want a Refugium, but you don't necessarily have to have it.
A Refugium is not a required component of it. And what Josh said is a Refugium would be a great way to bridge the gap of the first couple of years. And in the first couple of years when you're running all kinds of nutrient problems and you don't have coral uptake the same way, but once the tank's like filled with coral, in his mind, like the coral is the primary uptake of nitrogen and phosphorus from the tank. You don't really need the Refugium anymore. The problem is, like, anytime you take off a filter like that, it's a major destabilizing event. So if you're going to put it on in the beginning, I'd probably just leave it on. I don't know. I'd be real hesitant to take it offline just because, like, I just haven't seen a single tank where you change a major component of the filtration like that and don't see a negative trend. Like
BRS 160 is a
yeah,
case
we do
in point.
it on the 160 every time we make one of those changes. well, for a few months,
Big,
right?
yeah.
Sometimes a little longer even.
Yeah.
So like taking the sand out of here caused all kinds of stuff, man. Like I don't know if I would do that again.
Yeah.
I'm happy we did it here because we can learn and share. But like taking out the sand, it was a major destabilizing event for the tank. It started causing like cyano for out of nowhere. All of a sudden, like the bryopsis took off, and then the stupid Aiptasia took off, and like those things were kind of like existing in the tank in like tiny little pockets.
They were manageable.
Yeah, and then we took out the stand, man, and all of a sudden, like boom, like this, I can't tell you like one for one why one would cause the other one, other than the tank was stable. We destabilized it, and all of the things that are naturally happening there started, going different directions.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, those things blew up, right? And so maybe we released some nutrients into the tank when we were, there's definitely in the back there was what I call a toilet, or what was it, overflowing kitty litter box.
Yes.
Super brown in the back, which is hard to get, the stuff clean.
A lot of surface area that was lost too. Probably a lot of like bacterial colony wise was lost when we pulled the sand out. Whatever bacteria was living in or around the sand too. So maybe that spurred the cyano because it's bacteria. I don't know.
I don't know, but definitely major destabilizing event. So with your Refugium, I plan on keeping it for the long haul. As to when I'd put it in there, you know what I do actually? Because what we're doing is a 4-month cycle in this case with the WWC thing, and so you put the fish in it, probably after a couple of months, and then no lights at all. But now I'm feeding, and I am getting nitrogen and phosphorus in the tank. So I could turn the fish, the Refugium on a couple of weeks after I've been putting fish food, and there's fish and ammonia in the tank, and I'll probably be able to get that Refugium going before I turn the lights on.
And you probably reduce to a good degree, to some degree, the ugly brown phase when your lights finally do come on.
I can tell you this, man. At this point, hybrid method, whatever method you want to do.
Tank's looking great.
For sure. That tank's looking awesome.
750's looking awesome.
Can't wait. So the one thing that I'll tell you for sure that I will always do is, regardless of how long you cycle the tank for ammonia and whatnot, I will put all my herbivorous fish in the tank and feed them with no lights on it for at least 2 months, man. And just let them get used to the tank and, getting ready and comfortable. And then when I turn the lights on, all the herbivorous fish, like the tangs and whatnot, will be ready to eat all the algae. I'll never run into algae, which is like, one of the more common problems with new tanks. And like just totally solve that problem. But one of those things could definitely be is a month after that, start the Refugium.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think one of the things I would always do too is now, especially an SPS tank, is wait for, and I'd probably even think about it for like LPS, maybe some softies too. But I'd wait for that coralline to start growing. That's a big indicator that the tank is ready to grow, calcifying corals. So I'm a big fan of that.
That was like one of the most smartest things that I heard out of him, for sure. If the tank is capable of growing calcareous algae, like coralline algae, then it's showing you that it's capable of taking care of a coral.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's not 100%, but if you can't grow calcareous algae, is definitely telling you there's a problem.
It's not ready.
Yeah, it is not ready. So I wouldn't say, I'd almost say it's the inverse is 100% true. The original statement, maybe.
Yeah.
But definitely a good sign that things are going the right way. So get a little bit of coralline algae from your favorite place, scrape it off, put it in.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, what's the next one?
Let's see what Chaz has to say at the top there. In your experiments, you found that elevated alkalinity and calcium levels grow most corals faster. Why do you not run these elevated levels on most of your tanks and recommend alkalinity of 8.5 in the hybrid method, BRS-WWC hybrid method? That's a very good question.
I'll answer that one. So it's just because we've done an experiment. So we did an experiment, and if you watch that thing, I was real careful about how I shared it because I don't want everybody to go do that, right? Because it's like, oh man, you got 50% more growth. Like, let's go, let's all run out and do that,
Yeah.
But the reality is we don't know other things. Man, we can prove that there's more growth, but is the tissue keeping up with the skeletal rate, right? Do we know whether or not fish like DKH of 12?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to,
At any given time, you're on the verge of overdosing catastrophically.
Hey, you're right on the edge. So the skill level also, right? So if I run at 7, natural seawater people, I'm right on the edge of 6. And I know 6 is super bad, man. I actually don't even think 7 is good. And 7, man, means that my test kit's awesome. And it's not. Whatever you think your test kit's accurate to, you're wrong.
Yeah.
For sure. And so... 8.6 to me is like a good safe range is probably 8 to 9, 10, right in there. I'm not worried about it. 8.6 kind of right in the middle of there, and I can go up and down 1.5. Nothing catastrophic is going to happen. That is why we're there. So also there's different points in your tank. I may really want to, get super fast growth out of my tank in the beginning when the corals are this big.
Yeah.
Right? When they're colonies, and actually it's just a big pain in the ass when they grow, then, maybe I don't want them to do that.
Smart. It's interesting that you mentioned that too, because I think when you look at the bucket and at the directions for Red Sea Coral Pro, which is where those higher elements, or those elevated elements are from, it actually says that it's intended for like frag systems, probably because of the accelerated growth at those higher levels, and because they're small and you want them to grow fast.
I'll just say anything faster is more dangerous.
True.
I mean, I don't know. That could be from driving a car to eating a bowl of Cheerios. Too fast, you can get it faster down, but it's dangerous. So that's why I don't recommend that, man. Will we ultimately create a recipe for super accelerated growth where we're maintaining a pH of 8.3 super stably with a scrubber? We got alkalinity of 12 and flow is super max at 200x, and optimal light tested with the Trident, that's telling me when I can crank my lights up until alkalinity starts to consume back up here. Can you optimize growth that way? Absolutely. And will we do that? Probably. But
not everybody owns a performance high racing car either. So
No.
who it's all tricked out and tuned up and computerized. So I mean that's not everybody's gonna run out and do all that too.
You know what happens, like my car, man, I start drifting or
Yeah.
whatnot. Like some people know how to react to that, some people don't.
Yeah.
So you start to get burnt tips or something. Some people know how to react to that, some people don't. You know.
True.
You know, just a total like off the ball wall thing here. Like one of the things we saw with the XXL 750 is some of the corals were looking a little thin, and I couldn't believe this because like some of these things you just never know they like really work. And
Yeah.
still I can just say this is anecdotal a little bit. But one of the things that we did is Joss is like, yeah, dude, amino acids. When corals don't look good,
Oh,
use the
yeah.
aminos. So we got the Brightwell coral amino, and we put that in there, man. I'm telling you, in days, dude, everything looked all
Flesh was
puffy
looking
and
more
happy.
puffy. Yeah.
Yeah, so
sure.
total anecdotal, man. I don't know. Like I would have never ever told anybody that was gonna work that instantaneous like
Yeah.
that.
That's
But
the way that
I don't-
WWC revives their corals that have been stung or that are just doing pretty bad. Just put them in a tank with aminos.
Yeah, you know, it's just easy to build components of nutrition and building blocks of protein and getting the tissue back in line. So, bravo, man! I don't know, I couldn't believe it. But anyway,
cool.
so that's why we don't do the higher levels in all tanks or recommend it because not everybody's goal is fastest possible growth. A lot of it is stable tank that allows for a little bit of buffer. That's probably where the pocket that most people are in. So that most people are in is if I want to have a 5 to 10 year successful tank, I need to be in a pocket that allows for mistakes because mistakes happen.
Yeah.
If I am at 8 and all of a sudden I screw up and I end up at 12, no problem. If I'm at 12 and I screw up and I end up at 16,
Big problem.
yeah, man, it may be
Bigger
a
problem.
catastrophic problem.
Yeah.
Depending on how long it was and how fast you noticed it. So I don't know.
Fair enough.
For what it's worth, though, I talked to a coral wholesaler at one point in time, and he told me that one of the guys he knew who was trying to grow corals as fast, they were running like Elks at 16, right? I mean, don't go do that. But I'm like, wow, really? And I guess so. Like that means that there is twice as much carbonate alkalinity in the water as there is running at 8.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go and say it's going to grow twice as fast, but I mean, if you're in the business of selling coral, I would try that. If my business here was to sell coral, and the way that I feed my family is this one turns into 2, and 2 turns into 4, and 4 turns into 8. The faster
Grow.
that happens, man.
Screaming at it to
and
grow.
you know what? I have no problem if through some of my experiences, all these die.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, the successes that I find is going to put more captive grown coral into the market, and I'm going to save more coral. It'll reduce the demand and taking it out of the ocean. And so, like those experiments of running it super high like that, I wouldn't do it in my display. But I would absolutely do it in a controlled environment
Couple
like
side
that.
tanks, yeah.
Especially, man, if I'm looking for, I'm like super skilled and trying to drift my car.
Yeah. True.
Awesome. I mean, let's shoot a couple out. We got about what do we have? 2 minutes. Well, let's burn through these as fast as we can. Answer all these guys' questions, and
All right.
then we'll
Wrap her
call
up.
it a day.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Aloha Reef. Can you do a test on carbon reactor medias in empty tanks over a short period of time with ICP testing before and after to see what trace elements are added, if any?
We already did it.
We did it, and waiting on one result to come back, and I actually got to send out another one, so probably looking at a couple weeks on this one.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is the best method for this, but I mean,
We're running a calcium
people that
reactor
are here
right now,
watching this
so
live for an hour, man, I'll leak some information.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so what we did is run the thing at max saturation and then just tested the sent-in ICP solution, right?
Yep.
So the alkalinity and calciums are real high in there,
yeah.
right? And what we found was that there really isn't like measurable. I mean, you're only increasing it like 20% or something.
Yeah.
A lot of these things. So measuring it that way is going to be really, really hard to pick up some of these things that are on the edge of even being able to be measured in the first place.
Right.
So we didn't see a lot. I did see with the reborn calcium, which is the little reef bones from 2 little fishes.
Yeah.
Definitely adds strontium.
Oh yeah.
By like a good degree. with the Coral azarius and the Carib Sea, which is pretty similar medias. They didn't add a whole lot of strontium. They're different medias. You can look at it and see right away.
Yeah.
However, the Coral azarius and the ARM media add less phosphate. So,
yeah, that's true.
I mean, you're melting,
dead
old coral skeleton, man, that has definitely got phosphate bound up in it.
Yeah. So, I mean, something similar to, probably not to the same degree, but something similar like you would find if you pull Pukani rock from the ocean, and you're gonna have some kind of organic on it at some point in time, probably. So.
Well, that was actually this is a good question, man. Thank you for asking. Because when I was watching the guys over at what WWC, they were describing some of their systems, and they're like, what's the lithium chloride thing that Right Whale uses? Phosphate.
I
don't know. They have goofy names.
We've got a bottle back.
Phos reducer deluxe. Yeah. Whatever it is. So what is it called?
Neophos.
There you go. So you're removing the phosphate, and it's just lithium chloride, precipitates it out, and it's either removed by your skimmer or a filter pad, or it just settles out somewhere and it will never dissolve in a normal pH. And they were using that to reduce the phosphate levels in the tank, but all the conversation about nitrogen was the corals uptake. What food are you feeding it? It's out of balance,
Yeah.
So you got to constantly kind of keep the phosphate in check. And now I know it's not the food. It's probably the calcium reactor. They got a mega calcium reactor in there, and they've got a lot of coral uptake, and so they're definitely adding a source of phosphorus with the calcium reactor in there, or we all are. So they just use that tool to remove it. And the cool thing about the Neophos is I can do an amount. So once you got an experience using it on your tank, you can find out that if my phosphate level was 0.1, I could dose, I'm going to make this number up, but 30 milliliters of it, and it will be 0.05.
Yeah.
And that means that for every 30 milliliters I dose of this stuff, I will remove 0.5, right? Wow, man! You can't do that with GFO.
No.
GFO
just
take it all out, right?
all at once.
And that works super great in some instances, but in a tank that's got 80 grand in coral in it, like they got, strip it all out.
Bad news.
Not the answer.
No.
Right? And so for them to be able to just manage it, and they know right away, phosphate level is this, go dose that. They almost don't even have to look because they've had so much experience and it just works.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah,
it brings up it brings up some even more experiments that we could do on it. There's phosphorus and phosphate in these medias. So if you cure it beforehand, do you get less of it? So if you don't want it right off the bat, or what are ways you can get rid of it initially so it's not there? Or how long does it take for it to deplete if it has been running for a while? So. You
know what? Actually, it was funny, man. I was telling Jeremy at Brightwell, it was too bad. I think we got rid of them. Maybe I have to check. We used to sell this Eheim phosphate media. It was like GFO, but they were big, huge pellets. And they're like, hey, man, you could just put that stuff inside of the secondary media reactor. Specifically, the Vertex one has the main chamber, then another chamber, and then there's this
little cup. Yeah.
Right? And that's actually for phosphate material.
Is it really?
Right? Yeah. And I'm like, I just never heard of it.
Because I would put magnesium media in the bottom portion, and then that makes sense. I could put some phosphate stuff in there.
You can put that. And he's like, hey, dude, you could use the export bricks.
They've got the little cubes and stuff.
The tiny little cubes that you could throw in there. So it would be fun to try. My only concern is that I've heard that GFO can precipitate out some amount of alkalinity. So what's happening when I'm dumping 40 DKH water over GFO?
Oh yeah. Who knows?
So we'll know.
We'll know.
Yeah,
we'll test it.
I want to test it and find out the
cool.
answer to that question.
Yeah.
But so that's a potential solution. You also feed your skimmer right into your Refugium or your not your skimmer, your reactor.
Your reactor.
The reactors definitely add some amount of phosphate. So do your foods. So do your almost anything organic going in the tank. And these are coral skeletons going in there. So, but outside of that, strontium with the reborn media, and then the rest of it was I'm not willing to comment on it, but it's not overwhelming. Oh, look at all these trace elements that it's adding. I think a lot of those trace elements are bound up in the live tissue of the coral, and less so in the calcium carbonate-based skeleton.
Makes sense.
So, iodine, molybdenum. Those are all things that live, like a lot of it in the organic tissue of the coral that isn't going to exist in great vast amounts inside of the skeletal structure.
Yeah.
All right. Is it okay to use baking soda to raise alkalinity? Absolutely. Did it for many, many years.
And we tested baking soda off the shelf versus, the farmer grade stuff, and then some other bulk type of aquarium type products. And there wasn't, a massive difference other than maybe some insoluble materials in baking soda.
It was the baking soda that you get at the store, man, like not tremendously different than the stuff that aquarium, sodium bicarbonate, right?
Yeah.
And so, some of it's USP grade, some of it's food grade. In this case, such a huge demand for purified food grade. It's pretty good stuff, and it's cheap. I would personally, if I was in a pinch, I'd go buy a box of Arm & Hammer and never think twice about it.
I've done it.
If I was going to use something for the next 10 years, there's stuff builds up, and one of the impurities that we found in there was copper, in almost all of them.
Oh, true.
And so, I just don't want to use the wrong thing and also, somebody asked you, can you bake the baking soda and turn it into soda ash? You can absolutely do that.
I did it.
Yeah, me too, man. Did it for years,
Yep.
right? And so you can do that. Sometimes you just don't do the math. And I did the math the other day on how I had to run the thing, man, to get it to you have to do the weight, by the way. So if you dry it in the oven, man, you're like, oh yeah, it looks dried. I don't know.
It's starting to turn
right?
flaky.
You have to weigh it, man, and make sure that it actually got rid of what it was supposed to, to work the way that you want. And I was baking that stuff for an hour plus, and if you go look at how much it costs to run your oven for
that
an
long?
hour, man, and then your time and stuff, and it's man, I got $3 in electricity or whatnot, or natural gas into this thing,
For
and
cents of savings or dollars of savings.
and I saved $4, but it took an hour of my time. And
Heating
come to
the
think of it,
house.
I'm not really sure, man. I was putting it on top. I didn't want to put it on the cookie sheet because the cookie sheet's got cookie on it. And I'll put it on aluminum foil. But come to think of it, I don't know what
How
aluminum foil reacts
yeah.
with. So I don't know. Yes, I wouldn't bake it personally anymore. It's just it's just too cheap. There's too many options to not have to do that anymore. But if I was going to use just for alkalinity, I want to go bump it up. Go buy a box of Arm & Hammer, no problem, man. I just probably wouldn't use it as my primary alkalinity thing for 10 years, and I'm sure 100 people have done it. The only, maybe even more, thousands of people. The difference in there is that mix of I had success, yeah, I didn't. You don't know what corals they had, how often they were doing it, what kind of water change schedule they had, all that kind of stuff. But in a pinch, man, for sure, use it. What is it? Probably $1.
For a box? Yeah, and
well,
that's gonna make quite a bit. Probably at least a half a gallon, if not 3/4 of a gallon in that box.
Yep. For what it's worth, we now sell the USP grade stuff in a little pouch.
Single use.
And it's probably $5.
Yeah, rip and dump.
And I don't know, and peace of mind.
Cool.
What's the next one? Transferring live rock from a neglected tank to a smaller system. Should I scrub off?
The buildup.
The buildup on the rock will eventually clear up over time. So this kind of gets to some of those videos we've been doing on curing, right?
Yeah.
So, if you can, I would definitely scrub it. If it's super dirty and it's got all kind of garbage on it, I would definitely scrub all that stuff. There is no reason to pollute a new tank with old tank garbage.
Yeah. So I'd mix up salt water so I can save. Essentially save as much bacteria as on there. If I want to keep this stuff live rock, then I just fill up a trash can or even some 5-gallon buckets if I got it. Shake it in one, move to the next one, scrub in that one, shake in the next one, and I'd probably set up a series of rinse stations and scrubbing stations.
And I gotta tell you, I'm pretty sold on the whole concept of using the right tool for the right job. So if I'm going to do that and I got sludge all over it, I'm probably going to go buy one of those bacteria things.
The waste away, or the
the
Brightwell clean bacteria or
microbacter clean.
Something.
Yeah, so these are like different types of bacteria that are scavenging bacteria. They're aggressive, larger bacteria that scour the surface of the rock and break down stuff fast, right? And so I've heard enough people I haven't done it myself, but I've seen it from enough people that I trust that are like, yeah, man, I used it, and all of a sudden my skimmer went nuts, and all this stuff slothed off into the bottom of the sump. I was amazed at it. I'm like, really, man? I'm willing to try it for sure now. Like,
yeah.
It's one of those things you're like, oh, the bacteria, they're going to do the thing, but like, I don't know, man. I'm believing in it.
Aggressive bacteria.
So I would definitely. And what is it, man? It's like $15
for a bottle.
So yeah,
and it
like
treats a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd definitely give it a shot. And the difference between those two, I think, is that the Microbacter clean is like a dormant bacteria that take all the oxygen out, and so the little cysts stay cysts. Then when you open it up, all of a sudden expose the oxygen, put it in the tank, and they come alive. That means that I think it freezes.
Can ship pretty well.
Freezing. Like in the summer, man, it doesn't have the same hot issues. Cold doesn't have the same cold issues versus the live stuff. So, I don't know.
Oh, and the waste away comes in like little gel tab type things that you can stick inside the tank. It's time release, 30-day gel tab type things.
You know what? I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So I did have a personal experience with that.
Yeah.
He sent me those waste away things, and I had a tank that was filled with cyano. I put them in, the cyano went away. For real? I couldn't believe these little gel tabs. I tried it in another tank, and it didn't do it in another tank. So that was just like biological wars that are happening, and you never know what's really going to win.
Yeah.
But same thing with those gel tabs, though, is they don't have the same heat and summer issues.
Shippable.
And they are time release and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, definitely check those things out. But so if you're going to do that, I would, scrub it. If you have pests like Aiptasia, bubble algae, and stuff that you do not want to start your new tank with, bleach it, man. And so, like somebody pointed out the other day, and I don't know if this is true or not, but like the Clorox or whatnot has like soap in it. So whatever you do, use the bleach that is just bleach. Don't go. Make sure it doesn't have any scents to it or soap.
You don't want your lavender bleach for this one.
No, you don't want lavender bleach or lemon zest or whatever. So
Save
bleach it will use all the organics, will break it all down. Use a dechlorinator to make it safe again. Let it dry out and give it some good rinses. But that will get all the organics off of it. Otherwise, just natural cure it. Dry it out in the air, let everything die, and then natural cure it.
Yeah.
There might still be some stuff that makes it process.
I'd say that it probably to dry out naturally in the air, like it's going to take warm, sunny, dry weather, like set it outside almost type weather. You probably could like lay it out in the basement with a fan on it, and then probably dry it out pretty quick. That's pretty good. Keep it from the elements outside. So,
one thing you don't do, don't blowtorch it, and don't boil it.
Don't boil it.
Yeah, like I hear that question
smart.
all the time, man. The corals have toxins in them, specifically things like zoanthids. Blows up in your face, you kill your family. So don't do that,
Just
man.
not worth it.
Don't turn zoanthids into noxious gas. Definitely don't do that one. All right, what's next? I got 4 more. Quick.
Have we figured out a way to reuse CO2 absorption media yet?
There is. Oh yeah, the recyclator guy. Yeah. All right, so right here. So you can't reuse the media. The media is done once it's essentially it's calcium hydroxide. So essentially, what happens is CO2 enters in there and it turns into limestone. You can turn limestone back into sodium hydroxide with a tremendous amount of heat, like I don't know how many thousands of degrees or whatever, but not in your house. I think Chad here tried to use a blowtorch and it just burnt up, so it can't do that. So, but what you can do is reuse it, is pump already scrubbed air through it. So if you think about this normally, there would be like a protein skimmer here, and the pump would draw out the media, and this would just suck out of the fresh air. And essentially you're removing all of the CO2 from the room. And eventually
it's going to go quick depending on how much CO2 you have in the room.
Well, it depends how big the room is, because it only kind of probably maintains that room. Maybe it's hiding under your sump or in your fish room, and it actually just removes most of the CO2 in that room, and eventually it will leak and share with each other. But like if it's in a small fish room, probably just keeps that room relatively CO2 free, right? All right. So, but the problem is you're just cleaning the whole room essentially of CO2 all the time, and you burn through all the media. All right. So if this was a skimmer and I was sucking in the pump here, what would happen? All that air leaves out the top of the cup. Eventually, like all the bubbles and everything goes out the top. What if I ported that air back into the CO2 media?
So you're recirculating its own air, which has already been scrubbed.
Yeah, it's already been scrubbed. So I'm just taking air, water interface, and pumping it through, through these things. And I'm going to get an environment, man, where this media probably now lasts me like forever. It might even work too well, where the pH of the tank actually gets too high, in which case you probably put a little valve on it and allow some fresh air in, or some complex thing of solenoids or whatnot. Terrence happens to be watching, or if you want to pester Terrence, tell him that we want an Apex ready 3/8" solenoid so we can do this with our Apex. I wanted it last year when I asked him the first time.
Yeah.
But not enough of you guys have pestered him yet for it. But if you do that, then we could use the media only when we need it, and we could take air from the room, or take air that's already been scrubbed and maintain a super stable pH all the time. The only kind of problems that I read about this so far.
There's a couple of people that are doing it on the forums that have tagged us in it after we had mentioned it. One thing that I've heard for sure is a check valve on the inlet side between the skimmer lid and the inlet side of this, because there's times where it backs up with crud and it fills up the line going back to it, and then it just pretty much can clog it out or fill with water and then get back into the media.
Interesting. So I'd be curious how the check valve works, especially how it works in terms of slowing the air down. I don't know. But that was one of the things. If you got a cup up here, if the skimmer, there's all kinds of things that makes the skimmer go nuts, right? Like all kinds of different things happen in the tank. It could be you turn the power off, or some of the sump level goes up, anything. Some bubble gum makes it in the tank, whatever. So inside of here, you got your skimmer cup, and if the thing goes nuts, then all of a sudden the foam comes up and it starts sucking foam into your media. This is calcium hydroxide for the most part, and all of a sudden that slush gets all wet and starts making its way back into your skimmer, which gets flushed into the tank. There's also like a ethyl, violet dye or whatever in here that changes color as it's consumed. So you just don't want to get this stuff wet is the big thing, right? So there's a couple of things I think you could do to stop that. One is like a skimmer, like from the Octopus guys, the Varios one.
With the float switch on it?
Yes. What's it called?
The Varios.
No, it's the Varios pump.
It's the
Skimmer, it's Regals.
The Regals.
Regal guys. So it's got a float in it, and when the float, when the thing gets full, it just turns it off, which will stop it from, sucking foam into here. And also I've heard that in that environment this thing can get kind of moist and maybe bubble up a little bit.
It's pulling from a really humid environment inside that skimmer cup.
The humid environment actually makes the media last a lot longer as well. So drying out the media actually causes problems. And so actually, if you don't have it sitting in front of us, but one of the giant ones, so we have these guys that sit on legs and whatnot, and they hold like 4 times as much media in there. So this guy might last a week or two, and then you need to change it out. That guy will last 4 times as long. And on the bottom, it actually has a little screw top. So if our water ever got in there, you can just let it drain out. So that's pretty cool. And so some of you might say, hey, man, change it out every week or two? That sounds like a lot, man. I don't know. They're about $5 for a change out. And we're about to release the pH related investigates, where we ran one at 7.8 and one, or 8.3 and 7.8. And you're looking at 30% more growth inside of 3 months, which extrapolates out, right? Like, so 30% on top of 30% on top of 30% on top of 30% means that inside of a year, it's actually probably about 100% more growth. So if I got a tank just riddled with SPS corals or anything that tiny little sticks all over my tank, or little corals that I want to grow out no matter what they are, if I get them to grow out twice as fast, there's probably not a single place where $5 could actually make that twice as fast in a year, or $5 a week, or every 2 weeks, or whatever it is. So I don't know, man. But if you do it recirculating, the one of these things probably lasts months.
So we plan on testing this, right?
Oh yeah. So yeah, definitely. The recirculating thing is going to make the next series of experiments. So we can get it firsthand. I'm not
a
sure
good one.
that skimmer will use exactly, but we're definitely going to move it on up and try that out for everybody. I think that'll be an exciting one.
If we do it in the
Should
UN
probably
70s,
try this
they
little
have
plant guy too. Man.
Yeah, that one I'd have to find a room that we don't fluctuate CO2 like crazy. I don't know. Or we can monitor it with pH.
We can send it to somebody's house.
All right, a couple more.
All right, that's it. We're 19 minutes over. What do y'all think about the Trident?
I like it.
Yeah.
And right now it's awesome. So I'm watching it for the 1C. It actually told us that. So I was talking like last week or the week before about the increase in alkalinity and how I need to calibrate and everything. And then afterwards, Josh came to me and he goes, the numbers that you had on your Trident weren't exactly right, but there was a definite trend upwards because of less consumption. From like probably the Borealis cure or whatever was happening. So
Fluconazole?
yeah.
Yep.
So,
All right, man. Cool. Well, that's it. We're going to call it a day. And for those of you who don't know, we're giving away 4 orders a day. So become a preferred reefer and in your box, man. We'll see one of these things. If you don't want to place an order,
put some in your wish list.
yeah, dude, wish list, dude. Up to 500
Put
bucks.
$500 in your wish list.
Whatever it is you're thinking about, try it in. Well, I don't know. You can't probably put that in your cart right now because you don't have it.
You might.
But,
I don't know if you can.
8 bags.
Somebody did.
Whatever. Anything you want to put up
Throw
to
it in
500
there.
bucks. We are giving away that every single day this month. We're giving 4 orders away every single month. Open up your box, see one of these
Almost
guys
halfway
inside
through.
the catalog, man, it's free. And also, 10x rewards for preferred reefers. So at
All
10% of everything that you buy from things that qualify, like BRS products and a whole bunch of other brands that are participating.
All month.
All month,
All
man,
month.
goes right back so you get new stuff next month. So at minimum, man, like hit the button and become a preferred reefer.
It's free.
Do the $500 thing because we're doing it every day.
Yeah.
We gave away, what was it, $13,700 worth of stuff already this month. I think, man, we'll probably end about 40,000. Yeah, I'm going to add it up. I think it's 30.
This number keeps going up.
I don't know.
Add stuff to your wish lists.
All right. Bravo,
Yeah.
man. We'll see you guys next week.
Take care.
Peace.